Hello everyone. Today I want to start with a question that many of us, especially those who are parents, have probably asked ourselves at least once. Have you ever felt like the very children you've poured all your love into raising, the ones you've cared for day and night, are now slowly turning away from you? Or worse, have you started to notice that their words and looks lack the respect you once believed you deserved after years of sacrifice? Imagine this. You've spent your youth taking care of them, staying up late when they were sick, running around to ensure they had a happy childhood. And now, with graying hair, you find yourself sitting alone in the corner of your home, staring at a silent phone with no messages, wondering, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong for things to turn out this way? That feeling is not just a passing sadness, it's like a dagger to the heart, leaving you both hurt and confused. I understand because I've seen many people go through it, and I've personally witnessed similar stories from those around me. But don't lose hope or let anger take over, because I have good news for you. This is not the end. Instead of being consumed by negative emotions, there are wise, gentle, yet incredibly effective ways to regain peace of mind, protect your dignity, and even rekindle your child's respect without resorting to arguments or unnecessary conflicts. In today's video, I will take you on a special journey, not only to heal the cracks in your relationship with your children, but also to help you rediscover yourself in what might feel like a lost phase of life. I will share with you 8 powerful actions drawn from real-life experiences and inspiring stories of older parents, those who have been in your shoes and found a way out. These are not just empty words or distant theories, but concrete steps, tested and proven over time, that have helped thousands of people turn pain into hope, distance into connection. You can start applying them today, right now, to change not just how your child sees you, but also how you see yourself. Think about it. What could be more wonderful than seeing your children come back to you not because you forced them to, but because they truly want to? I promise you, this will be a meaningful and eye-opening journey, and I look forward to guiding you through each step. But before we dive into these actions, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt distant from your children? Was there a moment when you wondered if you still mattered to them? Or are you looking for ways to improve your relationship, but don't know where to start? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to read them and have a conversation with you. Your story can be an inspiration not just for me, but for others reading this as well. And now, if you're ready, let's begin with the first action, a small step that can bring about a big transformation. Let's get started. Step 1. Don't let anger lead you. Pause and reflect. Imagine this. You have spent your entire life raising your children, countless sleepless nights soothing them through fevers, endless days rushing back and forth to ensure they have every meal, every small dream nurtured. You put their needs above your own, from their very first steps to the moment they became adults. But now, as your hair turns gray, you suddenly realize they are growing distant. Perhaps it's a careless remark that stings, a phone call that never gets returned, or simply the cold silence when you try to start a conversation. That feeling, it's like a punch straight to the heart, isn't it? You sit there asking yourself, what did I do wrong? After all I have sacrificed, how could they treat me this way? I understand. That pain is not easy to bear, and it's only natural to feel like exploding. You want to pick up the phone and shout, do you even realize what I've done for you? But wait, before you let that fire of anger consume you, take a moment. Breathe deeply. Give yourself a pause to reflect. Why? Because when you react in anger, you don't bring your children closer. Instead, you push them even further away, making an already fragile connection even more distant. Let me tell you the story of Sarah, a 68-year-old grandmother living in a quiet town in Oregon, USA. Sarah was the kind of mother who gave everything for her children. A single mother working double shifts at a diner to support 3 kids after her husband passed away too soon. She was there through every scraped knee, every school play, every late-night talk when they needed advice. But as the years went by, she noticed a change. Her grown children, now busy with their own families, visited less often. The phone calls became rare, and when they did talk, the conversations were short, ending with hurried excuses. One rainy afternoon, after leaving yet another voicemail with no reply, Sarah felt a wave of disappointment threatening to drown her. She was about to call her eldest daughter Emily and let it all out. "Do you even remember that I'm your mother?" But then she stopped herself. Instead of letting her anger take over, she put on her raincoat, stepped onto her porch, and took a walk down to the small creek behind her house, a place where she used to play with her children decades ago. The rushing water brought back memories, the sound of their laughter on summer days, the way they clung to her during thunderstorms, the pride she felt watching them grow into their own lives. Sitting by the creek, she suddenly realized her worth wasn't measured by how often her children called. It was in the unconditional love she had given, in the strength of a mother who had overcome so much to build a family. That quiet moment was like a switch flipping in her heart. She understood that her dignity was not something her children could take away, no matter how distant they became. Sarah's story is a wake-up call, and here's what I want you to remember. Reacting in anger rarely leads to anything good. When you explode, you don't regain respect. Instead, you risk losing yourself in your children's eyes. Instead, do what Sarah did. Pause, breathe, and give yourself time to reflect. Ask yourself, what have I done for my children? Who am I in this life? Look back at your journey, the battles you've fought, the love you've given, and you will see that your worth is not something others get to decide. Finding calm doesn't just help you avoid a meaningless argument, it opens the door to conversations with a clear mind and a warm heart. And trust me, that change has a powerful pull. It can lead to honest dialogue and, who knows, even bridge the gap you thought was lost. Dignity is not something you need to beg for, it is the fire you carry within. And only through quiet reflection can you keep it burning bright, rather than letting anger extinguish it. What do you think about the way Sarah handled the situation? If you've ever felt distant from your children, how did you deal with it? Share your story in the comments below. I would love to hear from you and have a conversation. Your experience is a source of inspiration, not just for me, but for everyone reading this. Now, let's move on to the next steps together. Step 2. Rekindle your life by seeking a new horizon. Close your eyes for a moment and think about this. Throughout the most vibrant years of your life, you have poured all your energy into loving and supporting your children. From the moment they let out their first cry in this world, you have always been the one standing behind them, carefully preparing each spoonful of food, singing lullabies through long nights to help them drift into dreams, and treasuring every second of their first smiles. Every day you lived was a constant effort, silently putting aside your own desires just to ensure they had a happy childhood and a bright future. But time never stops turning, and now, as you have passed the halfway mark of life, when silver strands quietly appear in your hair and you begin to long for a little bit of their attention, you feel yourself slowly fading from their world. The lively conversations of the past have now been reduced to a few short text messages on a screen. The once joyful visits are now as rare as raindrops in the dry season. Deep inside, you can't help but wonder, has everything I worked so hard for become nothing more than a forgotten past? That feeling of loneliness is not easy, I know. Perhaps you find yourself sitting in a quiet corner, eyes fixed on your phone, waiting for it to ring, for an unexpected message, for any sign that you still hold a special place in their hearts. Let me tell you the story of James, a 65-year-old man living in the suburbs of London, England. James was once a construction engineer who dedicated his youth to working hard and building a home for his 3 children. After retiring and losing his beloved wife to illness, he began to realize that his children were drifting away. They were busy with their jobs, their own families, and their visits dwindled to just a few times a year, sometimes only a hurried text message on Christmas. At first, James sank into deep sadness. He would often sit in his quiet living room, staring at the empty sofa where his family once gathered, wondering if he had done something wrong to make his children so distant. He spent hours looking at his phone, hoping it would ring, but day after day, the silence only made him more disheartened. Then, one spring morning, as sunlight streamed through the window, he decided, enough. He got up, rummaged through his dusty garage, and found an old painting kit he had bought long ago but never used. With some hesitation, he started sketching simple scenes, the fields outside his window, the roads he once walked. What began as a way to pass time slowly turned into a burning passion. He joined a painting class at a local community center, made new friends, and even organized a small exhibition to showcase his work. Suddenly, James's life lit up. He smiled more, walked lighter, and his heart was filled with a joy he never thought he could still feel at this age. And then something unexpected happened. His youngest son, Michael, called after months of silence. "Dad, I heard from some friends about your exhibition. What have you been up to? I want to see it." That phone call didn't just lead to a visit from Michael. Soon, his other two children, curious about their father's transformation, also wanted to know what had changed him. They came, sat down, and listened as he talked about his paintings. For the first time in years, he saw admiration shining in their eyes. They no longer saw him as an aging father waiting for their attention, but as a vibrant man full of life and purpose. James's story teaches us a precious lesson. A parent who lives fully and finds happiness from within becomes someone impossible to forget. When you have a goal, a personal joy, that energy radiates outward, and your children, no matter how busy they are, will be drawn to it without you needing to pull them back. So, if you are feeling lost due to the distance between you and your children, don't wait for them to change. Change yourself first. Invest in yourself. Try a new hobby like painting, gardening, or learning to cook a dish you've always wanted to master. Join a community group to meet people with similar interests, or even volunteer to find meaning in helping others. The happiness you discover will not only bring peace to your soul, but may also be the bridge that brings your children closer to you. What do you think about James's journey? Would you like to try something new for yourself? Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Every small step you take today could be the beginning of a great transformation, so let's start now. Step 3. Express your feelings in a smart and subtle way. Imagine this. You feel the growing distance between you and the children you have spent your entire life loving. Maybe it's the long days without a single call, the messages you send that receive only silence, or even an indifferent attitude that makes you wonder whether you still hold a place in their lives. That feeling is not easy. It's like a cold wind passing through, leaving you both hurt and confused. In moments like these, the most natural reaction is to confront them directly, to pour out all your emotions in frustration. Why do you never call me? Do you not care about me anymore? I understand, because when the heart is wounded, we all have the urge to let it out. But here's what you need to know. Harsh words, even if they bring momentary relief, often act like fuel to the fire. They cause your children to shut down, to put up walls, and the distance between you only grows wider. The secret lies here. Instead of letting disappointment lead the way, learn how to express your feelings in a way that is gentle and thoughtful. One that opens the door to connection instead of slamming it shut. A warm, sincere tone will always be more powerful than accusations or guilt-tripping. Let me tell you the story of Maria, a 70-year-old woman living in a small seaside town in Italy. Maria was once a talented chef, spending decades cooking delicious meals for her family, especially for her youngest daughter, Sophia, whom she always considered the greatest joy of her life. But as Sophia grew up, got married, and moved to a big city, the bond between mother and daughter slowly faded. Sophia's calls became less frequent, and whenever they did talk, the conversations were short before Sophia would make an excuse about being busy. Every day, Maria would sit by the old wooden table in her kitchen, the same place where she and Sophia once kneaded dough together, gazing at the small road leading to her house, hoping that one day, Sophia would unexpectedly appear. But day after day, the silence felt like a heavy stone pressing against her heart. One evening, When the longing for her daughter became unbearable, she almost picked up the phone to unleash all her emotions. "Sophia, do you even consider me your mother anymore? Why do you never check on me?" But then she stopped. Instead of letting anger and sadness take control, she decided to do something different. She took out an old sheet of paper, sat down under the dim light of her kitchen, and began writing a letter. With trembling hands, she wrote, "My dear Sophia, lately, I've been thinking about you a lot. I miss the afternoons when you would sit here, eating pastries and telling me stories about school. I don't know how your life is now, but I just want you to know that I am always here, always loving you and proud of you, no matter what." She folded the letter, sent it, and didn't expect too much. But just a few days later, the phone rang. It was Sophia. Her voice was choked with emotion. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you missed me this much. Your letter made me cry all night." From that moment on, Sophia began calling more often, and her visits became more frequent, bringing back the stories Maria had longed to hear for so long. Maria's story is a powerful reminder of this lesson. The way you communicate your emotions can either mend or break relationships. Instead of letting hurtful words push both sides further apart, try expressing your feelings gently and sincerely. For example, you could say, "I really miss the times we used to talk. Lately I've been thinking about you a lot. How have you been?" These statements don't carry blame. Instead, they create a space where your child can feel your love without feeling pressured. Compare this to saying, "Why do you never care about me?" a phrase that might make them retreat defensively. A softer approach acts like a warm hug from afar, inviting closeness rather than pushing them away. Words hold an incredible power. They can build bridges or deepen the gaps between hearts. The choice is in your hands. What do you think about Maria's approach? If you have ever tried to reconnect with your children when feeling distant, how did you do it? Share your story in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Your experiences are a source of inspiration, not just for me, but for everyone reading this. Now, let's continue exploring the next steps to bring warmth back to your family. Lesson 4. Establishing healthy boundaries. Think about this. Respect is not a one-way street flowing in a single direction. It is a two-lane road where both you and your children need to walk together. If you long to be appreciated by your children, the first thing you must do is learn to appreciate yourself, and the best way to do that is by setting clear, healthy boundaries. When you allow a lack of respect to persist without addressing it, you unknowingly send the message that you are willing to accept being treated unfairly. But when you courageously stand up for your own peace, you not only protect your mental well-being, but also set an example, teaching your children that you deserve love and kindness. This is not about being cold or pushing anyone away. It's about reclaiming your value and creating a beautiful balance in your relation. Let me tell you the story of Henry, a 67-year-old man living in a peaceful suburban town in Canada. Henry was a dedicated auto mechanic who retired after many years of hard work to support his family. He had a daughter named Claire, whom he loved dearly. But over time, Claire only seemed to reach out when she needed something, whether it was getting her car fixed for free, having him babysit her kids on weekends, or even calling just to unload her frustrations in life without asking if he was doing okay. With the big heart of a father, Henry always tried to fulfill every request, hoping that his constant help would make Claire appreciate him more. But what did he receive in return? Instead of gratitude, Claire became even more demanding. She would often show up at his house unannounced, drop off the kids for the entire day without a thank you, and leave in a rush, as if it were expected of him. Henry started to feel more like an emotional ATM than a father who was loved. Then one crisp autumn morning, when Claire called asking him to babysit immediately because she had an unexpected appointment, Henry felt a deep exhaustion rise within him. He looked out the window, watching golden leaves gently fall onto the yard, and suddenly realized, I can't keep doing this. This time, instead of agreeing right away as he always did, he took a deep breath and responded in a calm but firm voice. Claire, I love you very much, but today I can't help. I've signed up for a painting class at the community center and I need to dedicate time to it." Claire was stunned. She had never heard her father say no before. At first, she reacted with frustration, muttering complaints over the phone. But Henry stood his ground. He remained firm in his decision and started focusing on himself. He attended his painting class, filling his canvases with the forests he loved, signed up for a light gym program to improve his health, and reconnected with old friends he had neglected for years. Slowly, his life became richer. He laughed more, his eyes sparkled when he spoke about his new paintings, and he no longer sat around waiting for the phone to ring. And the most incredible thing happened. Claire began to notice the change. She realized her father was no longer just waiting around for her calls. He was now a man living for himself, with his own joys and plans. That change made Claire reflect on her own behavior. One day, she unexpectedly visited, not to ask for help, but to bring a box of homemade pastries and say, "Dad, I'm sorry for being so inconsiderate. I want to hear more about your painting class." From then on, Claire began calling just to check in, and their visits became more about warm moments together rather than fulfilling her needs. Henry's story teaches us a profound lesson. Respect is a two-way street, and if you want your children to treat you well, setting healthy boundaries does not mean pushing your children away or being cold. It is a way of loving yourself enough to say no when necessary, to protect your time, energy, and emotions. You don't need to yell or argue, just be firm and sincere. Try saying, "I love you very much, but I also need time for myself." Instead of silently enduring unfair treatment, take a stand. What do you think about Henry's approach? Have you ever set boundaries with your children or loved ones? Share your story in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Your experiences are not only valuable to me, but also to everyone reading this. Now, let's move on to the next lesson together. Lesson 5. Maintain your financial independence. Imagine this. You have spent your entire life working, saving, and building a home for your family. Now, as age gradually casts its shadow over your once active days, you might think that it's time for your children to take care of you, a well-deserved reward for the years of sacrifice. But here's a truth worth pondering. Financial dependence on your children does not always bring the warmth or closeness you dream of. Instead, it can lead to underlying tensions, silent glances of resentment, or even an unspoken distance that neither side wants to acknowledge. On the other hand, when you stand firm on your own financial feet, you not only maintain your dignity but also send a powerful message to your children. You are a respected, independent parent who will never be a burden. This is the key to preserving their respect, and I have a story to prove it. Meet Olivia, a 72-year-old woman living in the suburbs of Sydney, Australia. Olivia was once a sharp-minded accountant who retired nearly a decade ago after decades of hard work. In her younger years, she dreamed of a peaceful retirement surrounded by her children and grandchildren. But she also understood that life doesn't always play out like a movie. After losing her husband, she made a decision. Instead of relying on her two grown children, she would take control of her future. She sold the large house filled with family memories, the place where laughter once echoed, to move into a smaller, cozier home just right for a comfortable life within the savings she had carefully built over the years. She approached her finances with the precision of a true professional, cutting unnecessary expenses, avoiding debt, and always keeping her budget within reach so that she would never have to ask her children for money. Occasionally, she treated herself to small joys, a short trip, a nice meal with friends, but everything was well within her means. At first, Olivia's children, Jack and Sophie, didn't pay much attention to these changes. They were busy with their own lives, assuming that their mother was managing as she always had. But over time, they started noticing something different. Their mother never complained about money, never called asking for a loan, never grumbled about rising costs. Olivia lived with ease, confidence, and a strong grip on her own life. This gradually changed how Jack and Sophie saw her. One afternoon, after months without visiting, Sophie stopped by and was surprised to see her mother had just completed an online pottery course. A new hobby she had funded entirely with her own savings. Sophie asked, "Mom, how do you always seem so content and secure?" Olivia smiled and said, I never wanted my children to worry about me. I want to stand on my own so that you come to me out of love, not obligation." Her words struck a chord in Sophie's heart. From that day on, she started asking her mother for financial advice, even seeking her guidance on planning for her own family's future. Jack, too, began visiting more often, not out of guilt or duty, but simply to talk, no longer feeling awkward about the possibility of being asked for help. Olivia's financial independence didn't just bring her peace of mind, it earned her the admiration of her children. They no longer saw her as someone they needed to take care of, but as a strong, independent role model. Her story teaches an invaluable lesson. When you maintain financial independence, you not only protect your dignity, but also create a compelling presence in your children's eyes. Financial self-sufficiency sends a clear message. You respect yourself, you don't want to be a burden, and you are strong enough to live the life you want. This doesn't mean rejecting help when you truly need it. Sometimes, accepting support from your children is a natural and beautiful part of family life. But strive to keep your life within your own control so that when your children look at you, they see a parent to be proud of, a source of inspiration rather than someone who needs rescuing. Ask yourself, do you want your children to come to you out of genuine love or out of financial obligation? Financial independence is your answer to that question. Lesson 6. Forgive, but always uphold your own values. Imagine standing at a crossroads. Your children, the ones you have poured your heart into loving and raising, have, whether intentionally or not, hurt you. Perhaps they no longer check in on you, leaving you waiting in loneliness. Or maybe they have spoken words that made you feel unimportant. That pain feels like a thorn lodged in your heart, and it's so easy to hold on to resentment, letting it slowly consume your peace. But here's what I want you to hear clearly. Forgiveness is not easy. It is one of the greatest challenges, but it is also the most powerful gift you can give yourself. When you hold on to pain, you only weigh yourself down. But when you choose to let go, you open the door to healing and rediscovering the light within you. However, forgiveness does not mean erasing yourself or allowing others' disrespect to define who you are. You can forgive while still standing tall, holding on to your dignity and self-worth. And the following story will show you how beautifully that can be done. Meet Leonard, a 69-year-old man living in a small town in Ireland. For decades, he worked as a devoted gardener, but his eldest son, Sean, was the source of his heaviest heartache. After getting married and moving to Dublin for work, Sean had almost completely cut ties with his father. Their phone calls became so rare that they could be counted on one hand each year, and whenever Leonard tried to check in, Sean responded with short, dismissive answers before making excuses to hang up. The once lively weekends filled with laughter from Sean's childhood were now distant memories, and Leonard began to feel like a fading shadow in his son's life. For months he lived with quiet sorrow, questioning whether he had done something wrong to push Sean away. Some nights he sat by the fireplace, watching the flames flicker, while allowing resentment to gnaw at his heart. But then, on a freezing winter morning, as he looked at the bare branches in his garden, he made a decision. He could not live with this pain any longer. He took a piece of paper, sat at his old wooden desk, and wrote a short letter to Sean. "Sean, I know you're very busy, and I don't blame you for the distance between us. I just want you to know that I forgive you and that I will always love you, no matter how far apart we may be." The letter was not long or complicated, but it carried the purest sincerity from the depths of his heart. But Leonard didn't stop there. He understood that forgiveness didn't mean waiting for his son to change. Instead of letting loneliness consume him, he dusted off his old gardening boots and returned to the beloved garden he had neglected for too long. He began replanting the rose bushes his late wife had loved, caring for each sprouting bud, and even joined a local gardening group to share his joy with new friends. He also enrolled in a short photography course, capturing stunning images of his garden through the changing seasons, photos full of color and life. His life slowly became vibrant again. He laughed more, walked lighter, and found happiness in simple things he had long forgotten. And then something unexpected happened. One day, Sean showed up at his doorstep unannounced, holding a small bottle of whiskey as a peace offering. When he stepped inside and saw the garden photos proudly displayed on the walls, he was stunned. "Dad, When did you start doing all of this? Why didn't you tell me? Leonard simply smiled and said, I wanted to spend time doing what makes me happy, but now that you're here, I'm really glad. From that day on, Sean began visiting more often, not out of guilt, but because he was truly drawn to his father's quiet strength and renewed passion for life. Leonard's story is a powerful reminder. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. It washes away pain and brings peace to your soul. But more importantly, forgiving does not mean letting others define your worth or accepting disrespect as normal. You can open your heart to your children while still standing tall, pursuing what makes you happy. Whether it's painting, gardening, or simply enjoying a quiet cup of tea in the afternoon sun. Your value is not determined by how others treat you, but by how you treat yourself. When you live with passion and dignity, your children will look at you with admiration, rather than just obligation or pity. What do you think about Leonard's journey? Have you ever forgiven someone while still holding on to your own confidence? Share your story in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Every experience you share is an incredible source of inspiration. Now let's move on to the next lesson together. So, we have journeyed together through exploring how to face the difficult moments of aging when your children may no longer show you the respect or attention you once had. The most important thing I want you to remember is this. No matter how life changes, you always have the power to stay calm and take control of yourself. Don't let pain or disappointment define you. Instead, choose to live fully, love yourself, and build a life you are proud of. The steps we have discussed today, from reflecting instead of reacting in anger, rekindling your life with new passions, to forgiving while still holding on to your values, are all keys to keeping your mind strong and even inspiring your children to reconnect with you. Aging is not the time to stop. It is the opportunity for you to shine in your own unique way. What do you think about these ideas? Have you ever applied any of them in your life, or do you have a story to share so we can all learn together? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear from you and connect with everyone. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more insightful content in the future. Thank you for being with me today, and remember, age is just a number. How you live is what truly defines your worth. See you in the next video. Wishing you a wonderful and healthy day ahead.